Welcome, fellow confidence crusaders, neuro nerds, and success equalizers. This is your podcast, Real Confidence. I'm your host, Alyssa DeVere, and I'll be sharing a bit of basic brain science, some surprising social secrets, and a touch of tough love. Why? Because I believe confidence is everyone's fundamental right and choice. So let's get to it. Connecting with confidence sounds so easy when you say it, and I know it's not, but we are going to make it not only easy, but fun, because I've got an expert and somebody that I've known for a long time that I just respect so much. Michelle Tillis Lederman is with us today. Michelle, thank you for taking the time to talk to me and all our listeners.
So excited to be here, Alyssa.
Oh, cool. All right, so let's get into it. And I'm never embarrassed anymore to ask the dumb questions. So let's just start with the obvious one on my head anyway, which is connecting. What do you mean?
I love that. Because networking is not the same thing. And when I talk about connecting, I talk about really just learning about somebody else and understanding what you might have in common, shared interests, shared values, shared experiences, shared causes, shared passions, shared dreams, all that stuff, because that makes you want to build relationship.
So we're going to dig into all kinds of paths on that, because you just laid a whole bunch, and I appreciate that. In-person, virtual, one-shot, long-term, all the above?
I was going to say yes until you said one shot, and that's when I say no, because what we're thinking about when we talk about connecting is over time. So yes to virtual, yes to in-person, yes to long-term, because otherwise you're not actually connecting. You are having an encounter or you're having a conversation, but connecting is moving from conversation to connection, to relationship, to long-term, to extension.
Yeah, I had this epiphany, and I say epiphany wasn't that smart, but it was one of those moments like, I can't believe I never thought about this before. I was taught to schmooze. And for those of you who don't speak Yiddish, don't feel bad about it. Schmooze, like walk into a party and pick a conversation with anyone. And when I started thinking and reading your content, it made me realize that it is completely different. That a connection is not just having a casual small talk conversation. True?
I would agree with that. And, there's nothing wrong with a good schmooze, right? So schmooze is great. It puts people at ease. It has you have a conversation. And a schmooze can lead to connection, but the schmooze is often surface, right? And
yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, when you said surface, I'm like, yeah, it is almost superficial, I would say.
Yes, it can be. It doesn't have to be. And so what I'll say is it's fine to have those conversations. And I don't want you to be like, tell me your deepest, darkest fears on your first conversation. But there's definitely something in between where we can show our interest in somebody else and our willingness to share and disclose some things about ourselves that just give a little bit more and make us a little bit more interested, right, and interesting around what could possibly be here between us. I like to think of it as a dance.
Dance. Well, as you were throwing out some of those adjectives and verbs, I was thinking to myself, again, this kind of casual conversation, the networking, getting into a place where you don't know anyone and making small talk conversation. There's a very one-sided benefit, right? Like, I'm going in there to find people that interest me, but you just said something that I think is really at the heart of what I study. And of course, this issue of brain science about this need to belong. And it's not just about you feeling comfortable in the room. It's actually, I think what you're saying is having that mutuality with somebody. And that's the difference maybe between schmoozing for the sake of, passing the time, finding somebody I like, versus making a deeper connection.
I love what you just said. And I know you told me to save all my tips for the end, but I got to give you one right now, because what you just said was, as we enter these places and we're going in, we're not necessarily going in with who do I find interesting. You're going into these environments with a host mindset. If you want to connect with confidence, go into these environments as a host The host is coming from a place of confidence because it's their goal, their desire to make everyone else feel welcome and comfortable. And when you have that mindset, it's really difficult not to feel confident.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I have a feeling, because I've been asked this a lot, you probably too, which is, why should I be so gracious, right? And why do I need to be the host? And I don't mean me, Alyssa. I mean, anytime that you are walking into a room or you going to meet somebody and you are like, oh, I'm going to schmooze or I'm going to connect. What are the benefits like of actually taking that host role? What do you see changes when people get into that mindset, have that approach? I'm sure there's emotional and I'm sure there's even physical differences that you see.
When you have that host mindset, you absolutely kind of stand a little taller, your shoulders a little back, you walk with purpose, you approach people with intention. And when you feel that you have purpose and intention, you're more comfortable, you're more relaxed, and you help set that emotional tone for the other person, right? Even for the extroverts, and I am one of them, it's so overwhelming. It's draining. Like, I even feel like, oh my God, I can't do more. But if I'm thinking like, okay, I'm now here to help other people connect and to make them feel comfortable, I will benefit. It kind of all rubs off. It's like peripherally, like, because you become that safe place. When someone's like, oh, I need a break, I'm just going to go over and talk to Michelle because I don't have to like work that hard with her.
It's true. It's true. I say confidence is contagious, and so is connecting. I think that's absolutely your mirror neurons and all these other neurological reasons we can explain it. But the truth of the matter is, the energy you're going to give to somebody is going to reflect back to you, and that's positive. Let's turn it upside down though. Like, when people don't connect, when there is clearly a lack of connection, you see or hear about people having emotional or physical signs and impact.
So when somebody's not connecting, we have to think about, what do we think the reason is? And I once, I'll tell you a really quick story. I was once giving the talk and I'm talking about give because you can, because you want to, without expectation, right? And that whole graciousness thing you were talking about earlier. And somebody in the front row was kind of like, I'm tired of giving, where's mine? I mean, like, literally, like, she didn't even realize how loud that came out of her mouth. She was mortified. And I took the moment and I was like thinking to myself, oh my God, well, why do I think that's happening? And going in my head. And I turned to her and I said, so tell me, what have you asked for? And she just looked at me like, I haven't. I said, okay, now I understand. Because having a host mindset doesn't mean it's all about the other person, right? And being gracious and interested and all of those things that we've been talking about, it's not just about them. I also said a little self-disclosure, some sharing, giving people the opportunity to feel helpful towards you. So everyone wants to feel valued and valuable, and we can do that. So I'm not saying make it all about them. Know what you want and be willing to ask for it.
I love it. So why is it so uncomfortable? Is it for a lot of people, right? To be that vulnerable? What is it that, you've done this for years, you're a coach, you're extraordinary in what you do. And you probably have seen so many people who would rather like poke their own eyes out than learn how to connect. And concept, I know you get them over the hump. So what is it that's stopping them? What is the real fear there?
So fear, I think fear, you're right, is one of the issues. And also it's, just different personalities. Some, the introverted personality finds it a little more draining, but I also think that they have a misguided at times perception of what it needs to look like. And it does not need to look like somebody schmoozing and working the room as, you might have in the mind's eye. When I talk about connecting, I'm just talking about putting yourself in the position with one other individual to get to know them. And that can be virtual, and that could be on the phone, and that can be, outside of the crowd. It doesn't have to look a certain way. And I think when we can embrace that, it takes a lot of the pressure off. So I want you to think about, your format and understanding the strengths that you bring to the table and leverage them. We all bring different things.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I remember having this conversation in a different flavor, I guess, with my own kids. And anyone who's over the age of 30 on here probably is going to go, like there is this clear difference in the way that they connect. We could do many podcasts on that whole topic, but the conversation I had with my own children who are now grown-ups, adults, was, ask as many questions. Every sentence that comes out of your mouth should always be about you, right? And I know you're going to give tips later, but I think there's a lot of social culture online and otherwise that people feel that they have to talk about themselves, in those connections. And it sounds like from what you're saying, it is really not about you. It's about the connection.
Yes. Oh my God, yes. Because when I talk about relationship networking, I talk about a couple shifts. And from the short term to the long term, from about work to about anything. And the third one is it's not about you, but it's not about them, because that's it's about me in reverse. It is about the connection, about the relationship. And as I said earlier, the dance. So yes, ask questions, but make sure you're not interrogating. And that's kind of fun. And that's why I say you want to intersperse with some information about you. Throw it in, but don't take it over. And so think about that as a dance of, I take a move, you take a move. And so there is this exchange.
I love it. And I'm going to go back and talk to my children about dancing better. And for those of you who are listening, I'm actually benefiting by seeing Michelle. She just did a little bit of a dance. So we're going to dance together for a little break, give our sponsors some love, and then we're going to come back and tell you really specifically how to do the dance. So stick with us. This podcast was sponsored by the American Confidence Institute. ACI uses basic brain science to teach you not what, but how to think with more confidence. ACI is endorsed by top universities and business experts, and it is accredited by the Society for Human Resource Management and the International Coaching Federation. Learn more about ACI's uniquely empowering keynotes, workshops, online training, and coaching certification at www.americanconfidenceinstitute.com. I hope you're enjoying this as much as I personally am, being with Michelle Tillis Lederman, one of my favorite people on the planet. And we are going to dance together now deeply into how to do this connection stuff for real. So Michelle, give me a tip, 2, 3 tips on if somebody's like, I want to do this better, what do they do now?
Okay, so summarizing what we already have, we are going to have a host mindset, right? So how can I make other people feel comfortable? 2, we're going to be curious and ask questions that we actually want to know the answer to, and questions that we're willing to answer ourselves.
Oh, okay. Stop there before you go on. Then I'm interested in, and I'm willing to give myself. Can you give me an example of that?
So I always say, don't ask about the sick cat if you don't care about the sick cat, right? If you want to talk football, talk football. Like, I don't care what the topic is, but pick a topic and a question that you actually want to know the answer to. And I'll share with you, I was taking my son to a summer program, and he was like, I never make any friends at these. I hate these. He's very introverted, very shy. And so we actually created a list of questions that he could ask people. And he goes, but Mom, you told me to actually only ask something I'm interested in. He's like, I don't care about that answer. I'm like, okay, let's take it off your list.
I love it. All right. So host mindset, ask questions that you actually want to know the answers and you're willing to give as well.
Yes. And the third one, which we hadn't talked about yet, is make it almost like you're a detective in these conversations, and you're searching for a couple of pieces of evidence. One is, what do we have in common? One might be, how can I help this person? How can I add value? What might they be needing? What introduction, what information, what invitation, what can I do to make them feel valued and valuable? And 3, what would be our next point of contact? Like, seek the follow-up in that first conversation, because I said, when we said, is it in-person to virtual, one shot, long shot? No, like, not to the one shot. So part of the most important thing I can tell you as a tactic is figure out your follow-up before you finish the first conversation.
What would be a legit follow-up for somebody that maybe you meet at a cocktail party or something that's not necessarily you're going to run into them at work, or you're, that you don't have something that would be an easy follow-up, what would be a good one?
So there's obviously the easiest one is like connect to them on LinkedIn or whatever social media platform that you might be on. But think about the conversation you had. So for example, I was just on a boat in the Galapagos on vacation with a bunch of other people. And at dinner one night, I learned that the guy who's sitting across from me does DE&I work. And I was fascinated by it. We have already emailed but the first email was, hey, did you get that picture of that sea lion? And so it started with what was our point of connection? Let's exchange pictures, and then transition it into, hey, here's my work email. Let's set up some time in the fall to talk about more what you do. And so find something from the conversation that might be the follow-up. And my favorite three things are information, invitations, and introductions.
Ooh, love that. Do that again.
Information, right? Is there something that we talked about? You're going on a trip, you need a plumber, whatever it might be. Is there information that I might be able to help you have, even if it's just me Googling it for you? Invitations. Are there events that I know of, even if I'm not going to them, that I can invite you to, right? And bring it to your attention? Or introductions. Who do you want to connect with that I might know? These are three really easy ways to see how you can add value and find your follow-up.
So I'm going to close with a real, it's not a positive. I always like to be positive when I can, but this one's a negative. What if you are connecting with somebody and you go to yourself, I don't like that person, and they keep sending you invitations? And what's the proper way to disconnect?
So I don't believe in burning bridges. But I might say, I really appreciate your desire to send me this. I really don't have time for these types of articles. But, we can keep in touch on LinkedIn or on other ways, and appreciate the intention, but let them know that it is not actually a value add.
So interesting, because I'm thinking to myself, I have a lot of people who are always trying to get to me. And sometimes I'm just like, I don't have time, or, they're just in a different orbit or whatever. So, part of the confidence conversation has to be the courage and the confidence to say to somebody, I really enjoyed that trip with you in the Galapagos, but I'm really not interested in these other things. Fair?
So boundaries, right? One of the mindsets of a connector is conscientiousness. Mm-hmm. Know what you're willing to say yes to and what you're willing to say no to, and know how to say no. And there's a whole chapter in the book on how to say no.
I love it. I love it. Maybe another podcast in our future together. But for now, I mean, shoot, we just scratching the surface on all of this. So much fun being with you always. Best way for people to find you is what?
Best place is my website, Michelle with 2 L's, Tillis, Tillis, Lederman, Lederman.com. From there, you can find all the stuff, my Instagram, my LinkedIn, my YouTube, my blog, all the free gifts I give away that are in the show notes, all the good stuff. That's the hub.
Well, so grateful. So grateful. And connecting with you is like, I kind of feel empowered as the connector with confidence today, like I've never had before. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.
Before we totally wrap up, I want to let you know that full transcripts and show notes for this and other Real Confidence episodes can be found on www.americanconfidenceinstitute.com/podcast. I also want to remind you once again that the best way to get confidence is to give it to others, and you can do it just by liking and sharing this episode on your preferred podcast and social media channels. You can even give me some confidence by noting topics you'd like me to consider for the future. So for now, this is Alyssa DeVere. Thank you for helping to bring more confidence to the world. Master editing done by Ben Weinstein, with original music performed and composed by Jeff Mitchell. Real Confidence is a production of American Confidence Institute. All rights reserved.